With over 1 billion of regeneration projects currently underway in Chesterfield, the Property and Construction Group will support the town to lead the way as a destination to invest. Let's hear now an update on the town's growth plans from Dr. Huw Bowen, Chief Executive of Chesterfield Borough Council. Huw will cover the future for Chesterfield Town Centre and the HS2 Station Master Plan, the focus on skills to deliver all of the town's ambitions, as well as the borough's objective of becoming carbon neutral by 2050. Huw will join us via the video link and will be interviewed by Dom Stevens, Destination Chesterfield Manager.
Let's face it, the threat landscape is constantly changing. Poor security is potentially catastrophic. It's holding you back. Imagine that your IT is simply secure by design, anytime, anywhere. Let us keep your data secure.
Welcome to Celebrate Chesterfield. It's always a pleasure for Destination Chesterfield to organise this event. The last event the team delivered in person was Celebrate 2020 at the Winding Wheel, and who'd have thought a year later we would still be delivering virtual events. However, we can still continue to celebrate the town virtually, and each year we update you on the Chesterfield economy. And I'm really pleased to welcome Dr. Huw Bowen, Chief Executive of Chesterfield Borough Council, who'll be discussing what is happening across the borough today. Morning, Huw, and thank you for joining us. We have to start the discussion with the COVID-19 pandemic. What's your assessment of the impact of the pandemic on the Chesterfield economy?
Morning, Dom. Good to be with you again, and morning, everyone. I hope that you're all keeping well and taking good care of yourselves. I think time will tell. You know, there are 1,100 Chesterfield businesses that are temporarily closed in this third lockdown. We do all hope that they will all open up and start conducting business again, but time will clearly tell. I think the assessment from the town hall is that Chesterfield's economy is more resilient than many other towns and cities. And that's because of the employment sectors where our workers work. So you've got lots of people working in health and social care, in the public sector, the growing professional services sector, ICT, accountancy, legal, lots of people working in essential convenience retail, and some great manufacturers and engineering businesses out there that are still, you know, very productive in terms of their outputs. So our sense is that, you know, we've got more people working in sectors that are more resilient in terms of the pandemic. And that sort of comes through really in terms of working age unemployment and youth unemployment. Back this time last year when I was on the Celebrate platform at the Winding Wheel Theatre, the working age unemployment rate was at 3.2%. That now stands at 5.3%. So it's gone up 65% in 12 months as a direct consequence of the pandemic. But if you look at the position in England, the working age unemployment rate has gone up 100%. So that just gives a sense that things are a little bit better here in Chesterfield than elsewhere. We are, however, concerned about youth unemployment. That has gone up 85% in the same period. It's just over 11% now. But if you look at the national position, youth unemployment's gone up 124%. So, you know, some favorability towards Chesterfield in those statistics. The other key, I think, assessment factor is that we've got less workers that are furloughed. So only 13% of our working age population is furloughed compared with 18% nationally. And I think just two final takeouts in response to this question. I think there are two major legacy aspects of what we're talking about. The first is online shopping. You know, in January, 35% of total retail sales were made online. And clearly, you know, we've seen lots of our businesses adapting and moving to e-commerce and digital ways of doing business, which has been great. But we do hope, I have to say, that we'll see not only the people of Chesterfield, but from people from outside of Chesterfield coming in back into the Chesterfield town centre and back to our high street. And just on the high street, when we last looked at it, after the second lockdown, when things opened up again, we had lost 11 town centre businesses, and 6 hadn't decided at that time as to whether to open again. So we'll clearly make that assessment again after the 12th of April. And what I've said consistently at Celebrate is that our occupancy levels in the town centre have always been 3 or 4 percentage points above the national position. I think last year it was 91.3% occupancy. That has dropped to 86.4% through the period of the pandemic. So we're now just above the national position of 86.2%. So that issue around online retailing and getting people back to the town centre and high street, I think, is going to be critical. The other element is home working. So across all sectors, 35% of the workforce is home working. But in certain sectors like ICT, 80% of the workforce are home working. And that's important for our town centres to get, ideally, those workers back into their office spaces. I don't think they'll be there full time going forward, but at least in terms of some remote working and some working within an office environment is the intelligence and the evidence that we're seeing from the advisors to that sector. And that's important because those office workers bring everyday spend into our high street in terms of their sandwiches at lunchtime and their general spending while they come into the centre on their lunch breaks and so on. So those are, I think, the 2 legacy aspects, online shopping and home working, that we're going to have to look at very, very closely indeed.
Thanks, Huw. And I suppose leading on from that, we now have the roadmap to recover. Vaccinations are being delivered. So what are the council's plans for supporting Chesterfield's business, the place, and of course its people to recover from the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we very early doors developed an economic recovery plan for Chesterfield. We've also got a communities recovery plan as well, which I won't talk about today. But there are 7 features within our economic recovery plan. I will talk in a bit more depth when I've gone through all 7 about business support. I'd like to say a little bit more around that. But that is the first priority, is to make sure that we support our existing businesses to survive and then to restart and thrive going forward. And also to support any new startup businesses. And we have seen, even in these difficult times, people have taken time to reflect on what they're doing, and some of them have started up in business over the past 12 months, which is just fabulous. The second priority for us is to do exactly what you're doing at Destination Chesterfield, and that's to continue to market the place as much as we possibly can. And run all your wonderful campaigns that you run through the year in terms of experiencing Chesterfield and the Love Chesterfield Awards coming up, the Invest in Chesterfield, and so on and so forth. And that's really important because we want people to come and visit the place and spend their money in our economy. We want people from elsewhere to think about relocating their businesses here. And we want business owners that are here already to consolidate their businesses and grow their businesses within Chesterfield. So all the wonderful work that you do around marketing the town and the place, that is our second priority. The third priority is to continue to attract the money that we need to enable infrastructure that enables employment growth and housing growth sites. And I'll talk more about those later in terms of, the wonderful developments that are happening within the town and borough today. The fourth element is the high street. Going back to what I was saying, we need to make sure that it remains viable and there's plenty of vitality about it. The fifth element is for Chesterfield to be a destination for visitors and a hub from which staying visitors spend time in Chesterfield, but also out into the Peak District. And then the sixth and seventh priorities are linked. And that is to make sure that local people have the right skills and have the right employability in terms of being able to go into the jobs that we create within Chesterfield town and borough. That inclusive growth is important. that local people should benefit from the proceeds of growth. And to enable that, we've got to make sure our working age population has the right skills and employability to take advantage of those job opportunities. So those are the 7 areas that we've focused on within the recovery plan, and we're working very hard on all of those. Just back on business support, the audience today will have a view in terms of how well the council has supported, and I think we've done a good job. We've administered some £18 million in business rates reliefs, mainly to retail, hospitality, leisure businesses, and to childcare nurseries as well. And then in the first lockdown, we paid out some £27 million in small business grants, again, mainly to retail, hospitality, leisure businesses. But since then, we've been through multiple schemes, local restriction support schemes as they're called, as different restrictions applied to Chesterfield. So I think at one point we were administering 10 different schemes in terms of small business grants. But we paid out another £12 million through the winter period and up to today, above and beyond the 27 million that we'd already paid out. There's also a pot of funding called Additional Restrictions Grant, where we have a lot more discretion. With the other grant schemes, we're basically told what we can pay and to whom we can pay it. But we've got a £2 million pot of funding that we're working with the Chamber of Commerce and the Federation of Small Businesses to design some support schemes for Chesterfield businesses. And we'll be releasing more information about those in the next couple of weeks. So do look out for that and do take advantage of those opportunities. The other elements, or 2 elements I'd like to finish on, the government have now announced these restart grants. So for non-essential retail, there will be grants available from early April, and those grants will be from £2,600 to £6,000 in value for non-essential retail, and that will be dependent on the rateable value of the property. And then the other element is towards the accommodation, hospitality, personal services businesses, and they'll be eligible for grant support from £8,000 to £18,000, depending again on the rateable value of their properties. So we'll be looking to get all that money out the door, in the next week or two, with contact to all those businesses within Chesterfield. And finally, there is a new entrepreneurial startup program that will go live in the next couple of weeks as well. That's something the leader of the council has been championing. She's been the lead politician on it in Derbyshire, and there'll be about £1.1 million of grant funding available to support new startup businesses in terms of quality business advice to get them on their feet and start up their businesses.
Brilliant, thank you, Huw. Yeah, lots of support still coming through for businesses, which is brilliant, and we'll continue to share that out through our mechanisms so everybody's aware of those at the time. One of the positives through 2020 was actually the progress of the £1 billion of regeneration across the borough, and it looks to continue this year as well. So which of the developments are set to make significant progress in 2021?
Well, it's a very, very exciting time, I have to say. And whilst I'm doing much of my work in these days remotely from home, when I do come in, it's great to see all these different structures going up around the town and borough. I'll start out on the east with Markham Vale. I was chatting about 4 weeks ago to Viv Clements of Henry Boot Development, and we were reminiscing of the time we were there on site when they launched Markham Vale in 2008. At that time, there were 200 acres available for development. There are now just 13 acres left for development, and we're now talking to them and to the Devonshire group about expanding Markham Vale North. So it's been absolutely fabulous. And again, this year, lots of development there and lots of great new businesses coming to Chesterfield. Blue Whale Spas and Transcare. We've got an aerospace company about to land at Markham Vale. And it's great also to see Chester's Fish and Chip Shop going out there as well. I'll certainly be visiting that on many occasions. I'm out at Poolsbrook and Duckmanton. So Markham's great, and obviously the job numbers are huge out there. and I know the County Council have done a fantastic job. They're making sure that there's inclusive growth, that local people benefit as far as practicable. If I then shift around to the north and to Peak, we have talked in the past about Adrenaline World and David Lloyd. That has moved away and has been replaced by what's called Summit at Peak, and Robert Swan, the Polar Explorer, is now the sort of front of that particular development. It's a 2-acre indoor activity centre. The groundworks are complete, and the structure will be going up between now and the end of August. There'll then be a fit-out process, and that will be available back end of the calendar year, early part of next year. So that's really the first phase of Peak. The other elements that we've now consented relate to the health and wellness park, which is the first of its kind in the UK. £40 million health and wellness clinic with a quality hotel and various other elements. And that will support people that have come out of hospital after some serious surgery to rehabilitate, but it'll also be available for the worried well that want to go and be pampered a bit and get back, to good ways. So that's fabulous, and we're hoping to see some movement on that with the investors. It's a Swiss-backed investor later this calendar year. And then the third element is the gateway, which we've talked about in the past, and I'm sure in Invest in Chesterfield, the conference later this year, or even Celebrate next year, it'd be great to get John Milligan and Milligan Retail to come and talk, because it is breathtakingly good, the designs that they've put together for the gateway, which is a resort in itself with hotel and retail and leisure and entertainment, but also a public transport interchange to connect people from their cars into hydrogen buses and other modes of transport, particularly cycling, and out into the Peak District. So they're costing that up at the moment. I hope that it comes in within their budget, and they'll be coming forward for planning consent from Chesterfield Borough Council sooner rather than later. So lots of great stuff happening at Peak. We come in down on Sheffield Road. We've then got the Glass Yard, Tim Turner, Blue Deer, developing out the Glass Yard, 500,000 square foot of office development over a couple of floors. And at the centerpiece of it is the Batch House, which is a food and drink artisan hall, which sounds absolutely fabulous, with independent catering kitchens and inside and outdoor eating areas, a dog-friendly space as well. So good luck to Tim with that. That's coming forward at a pace. There's then what we've been doing in the town centre at the Northern Gateway. We took a decision in April, May, when many councils were bunkering down, that we would start spending and get the economy moving. So we've got Robert Woodhead Limited on site, and they're doing a cracking job of building out the new enterprise centre, 32 flexible office suites, easy in, easy out terms, lots of business advice on tap, mainly for new startups, but for businesses that want some advice in terms of surviving and thriving and growing. And then we've also commissioned Danaher and Walsh to do the public realm work. So we're then connecting up the Premier Inn with the multi-storey car park, the enterprise centre, with the quality of public realm down Elder Way onto Niceness Gate and then down into Packers Row. So some great progress on the Northern Gateway. The other scheme that we committed to was Waterside. Maybe a bit of a gamble in the current climate, but the council agreed to forward fund and to work with Bolsterstone and Britcon, the construction partner, to get this 7-storey office block up, which is flying up down at Waterside at the present time. We've got some of that space let already, which is encouraging, and that will be up and open for business, within the next 9-12 months. So very excited about that. That's the first phase of Basin Square. The other 3 elements of that, which we're now working on with Bolsterstone, is a new multi-storey car park, and then there's 320 odd built to rent apartments and a brand new hotel and spa to go in, and we're just working on those elements so we can complete that first phase. If I then quickly just come across the town to West Bars, obviously mixed views about McDonald's going on there, but lots of investors and developers looked at that site, but it was McDonald's that came forward. And I'm pleased they did. It's been a site that's been derelict for a very long time, hasn't looked great as a first entry point to the town and borough, and McDonald's are on there with their contractors now developing that out. So it'd be good to see that site brought back into a productive use. So it's just a fantastic landscape of development that's happening in the middle of a pandemic, and I think it says everything about Chesterfield in terms of the ambition of the place and the fact that we're not going to just bunker down, but actually we're going to get on and invest in quality developments right across the town and borough. So long may that continue.
Thanks, Huw. And one area of development that's important to Chesterfield are the HS2 proposals, and we've discussed these at the past at this Celebrate event and also the Investment Summit. So could you tell us a little bit about why are the HS2 all the way and the HS2 Don't Cut Here campaigns so important to the town and borough's economic future?
Yeah, we very much view HS2 as a once in a generation opportunity for the town and borough. And yes, it's about connectivity, and there's a million people that come in regularly to use Chesterfield Station. So for them, their connectivity is going to be improved around the UK through a HS2 station and trains coming into that station. There's also capacity that will be created, and in terms of the greening of the economy, that's important because every freight train that's enabled to come onto the lines that are freed up through HS2, it takes 76 HGVs off the road. It'll also take thousands of bimodal trains off the road that aren't particularly, good for the environment. So the connectivity and capacity arguments are very strong, but for us, it's the transformative impact that HS2 will have on communities that have been left alone for a very long time. And I've said before at Celebrate's event, we shouldn't forget the challenges we have around deprivation and child poverty and so on. If you take 314 local authorities in England, and one is the most deprived and 314 is the least deprived, we're 86 most deprived on that list. And for health, we're 13th. For employment, we're 40th. We've got men dying in one part of the borough 10 years earlier than men dying in another part of the borough. So we've got to address that deprivation. And how do you do it? And from my studies back in the 1980s of the Black Report, one of the ways of doing it is getting people into jobs, well-paid, high-quality jobs, puts money in their pockets, and means that they have an opportunity to change the way they live their lives and the lives of their families. And HS2 brings that in abundance. If you look at the North Derbyshire HS2 growth zone, which is largely Chesterfield and Staveley, you're talking about another 11,000 jobs on the back of that investment coming in. You're talking about 4,740 new houses within the corridors that will be opened up for development. And you're talking about £500 million of economic growth that will be available to Chesterfield and the Peak District in terms of the visitor economy. So those are the global stats. I'm not going to talk too much about the station stuff because that's been done quite a bit, and we're out at the present time with the master plan for consultation. So I think people will be very familiar with the Chesterfield HS2 station master plan proposal, which are really exciting. But I'll talk a little bit about Staveley, if I may, just to finish off on this answer. Because within Staveley, there is a plan for a line maintenance depot that will provide opportunities for 200, 250 high quality jobs within the Staveley Works corridor. But of course, what it will also enable is the supply chain. And we've already got quite a number of rail industry sector companies working within Chesterfield Borough. Having a line maintenance depot here for HS2 will bring a lot more to the town and borough, which can only be good in terms of employment. But what it also does is catalyzes so much more in that corridor. There's 150 hectares of derelict land there, that needs being brought back into productive use. We've got planning applications in already from Devonshire Group and Saint-Gobain for sizable housing, retail, leisure, canal basins, which is just fantastic. The County Council is working with us and with Department for Transport on the Chesterfield Stable regeneration route. We've got a £120 million opportunity around restoring the Borough Hill line. We want to build a rail industry innovation and training centre at Borough Hill. The Hartington Colliery site, the former site, is close to being brought back into productive use as part of that corridor as well. All of that will be enabled through HS2. And we're already seeing the investor confidence in terms of investors and developers coming into our town and borough, buying up land, wanting to work with the council in terms of productive gains around jobs and housing and the economy. So HS2 is a really important thing for Chesterfield, and that's why we're campaigning at every level, particularly the leader of the council, with the likes of Leeds and Sheffield and Nottinghamshire, to make sure that DFT commit, Department for Transport commit in full to building out the eastern leg of HS2.
Thanks, Huw. I mean, a lot of that discussion was actually around housing. So, I mean, I think you get these reports through the year, and there was one earlier in the year by Rightmove that found Chesterfield was one of the happiest places to live in our region. And we know it's a friendly place and people will want to live here, and our location's really, really important. So can you tell us a little bit more about how the housing market's going in Chesterfield?
Yes, of course, Dom. Just as an anecdote around friendliness and happiest place and so on. My wife is a nurse, and she's worked all over Derbyshire and most of Cheshire as well in different nursing roles at different levels of management and so on. And she had 2 years in Chesterfield, and for her, they were the 2 happiest years that she's had. She found the people just so friendly. And there were people that very often didn't have a lot and were extremely grateful for the services that she and her colleagues were providing, always a smile on their face. And she tells that to everybody she comes across. And that's certainly been my experience of 18 years working within the town and borough. So I'm not surprised by that statistic at all around being the second happiest place. I'm sure we're the first, really. I think on the housing side, I've said previously that we need to be building out 240 new homes each and every year to meet the growth requirements of the town and borough. And I have to say, we had a lot of barren years in the last 10 years, where we've been getting maybe 50, 70 net housing completions in a calendar year. In 2020, the numbers were at 300. So we are way above and beyond what we need to be putting into the ground now. You only have to drive around the borough, you look at the commercial developments I've referenced, but there's tons of housing going in the ground. And talking to those house builders, most of the houses are being sold off plan. So there's a real desire for new homes, and there's a real desire in terms of our Indigenous population, in terms of breaking out from the family homes and setting up, on their own. But also, we need to have good quality housing of different tenure, of different size, and different affordability to bring, inward investors into the town and their workforce with them. So that's really, really important. And we're seeing that, right across the town and borough. But the council itself is also now building again and acquiring. So if you have affordable homes on your development sites, do talk with us at the council. We may well acquire them for council homes. We bought or acquired some 57, I think, in the last 18 months or so. And we've got ambitions to build and acquire a further 59, I think, over the next 18 months, based on development sites we know are currently available. So again, housing growth is going really, really well, and I have every confidence that will continue. The planning consents are in place for some 3,500 houses even today. Long may that continue, because that's important if we are to grow in the way that we'd like the town and borough to do so.
And you mentioned earlier on this morning, you talked about the high street and the importance of it and the changes that have happened over the last year, and we're hopefully moving towards the reopening of essential retail in our leisure sector. Could you just talk a little bit more about the vision for the future of the town centre and for Chesterfield Market?
Yes, absolutely. Look, we're working very hard to make sure that non-essential retail joins essential retail and reopens on the 12th of April. And that reopening the high street work is critical, because we want to make sure that people feel safe when they come in to the town centre and to our different high streets, because if they don't, they won't come back. So that's a critical piece of work going forward. But we also need to recognise we need to invest in the town centre. We've got our Revitalising the Heart of Chesterfield project, which is a £3.15 million project. I mentioned a little bit earlier on when I was talking about the Northern Gateway, because the public realm coming down Packers Row is the first element of the Revitalising the Heart of Chesterfield project. We've been out to consultation recently, had lots of great views from market traders and from retailers and from members of the public around what we should be doing with the market grounds. And we've got some funding to do stuff. And what we've got to get right, I think, Dom, is to get the right blend between retaining, a heritage traditional market, which all of us want to do for Chesterfield Town Centre, with creating spaces that are much more flexible, where you can have some entertainment, you can have some pop-up markets, some specialty markets, and various, other entertainment going on alongside the traditional market that we will always retain within Chesterfield Town Centre. So I'm looking forward to seeing Bridge's plans coming out from the consultation, and obviously we'll be sharing those more widely in due course to get the views of people before we commit spend. But that spend will help our existing traders. They haven't got water at their stalls, they'll have water, they'll have better electric and so on to support what they want to do. But then we'll also, as I said, create that flexible space for lots of other activities to run alongside. And I think that's really important, and we'll be looking to put that investment in place latter end of this calendar year and into the next calendar year in terms of the RHOC project, as we call it. We're working closely with Vicar Lane. I think Bert, Broadhead and Altrix are doing a fabulous job in terms of the flexible way they operate, in terms of getting new retailers to come into Steeplegate and so on. Really looking forward to that big screen being used in anger through the summer months, and to have some Prosecco and strawberries when the tennis is on, etc. I think we all are looking forward to that. And I think people will be aware now that the council is in the process of acquiring the Pavement Shopping Centre. We're not there yet. We're not exchanged contracts or completed. The legals are being worked through. But that's a 40-year-old shopping centre. It's very dated in terms of how it's structured. Massive undercroft, not a lot of retail above it really in comparison. So we've got a very exciting project there about how we reimagine and repurpose the Pavement Shopping Centre going forward, and we look forward to hearing the views again of retailers and traders and the public when we start to put those plans together, which we'll start to do through this calendar year, because it can't stay as it is. It can't stay as a 40-year-old shopping centre. Yes, retail must remain within it, but we'll want to blend with it apartments and maybe a hotel and other elements of leisure and culture and entertainment going into it. I think the other thing, Dom, is that the town centre's got to change from what it is today to one where it's very welcoming of both families and individuals to come in to spend their leisure time. So the festivals and events programme, I think, is going to be critical going forward. This year, I think it'll be more little and often because, we're going to have to very carefully choreograph some of the bigger events so people feel safe coming into the town centre for those events. I think the other element, which is really interesting, is town centre living. We're very proactive on it, very encouraging from a planning perspective. It's great to see the two former courts at either end of the town being brought back into productive use and converted to apartments. Also Burlington House, 87 New Square, lots of examples. And we've just commissioned some studies to look at need, demand and supply in terms of town centre living, which I'm happy to share with champions in due course. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that influx of new people into the town centre will impact on the economy, both during daylight hours, but particularly in terms of the nighttime economy, and shifting that to something a bit different from Ches Vegas, which we've got, you know, in one part of the town at the present time.
Thanks, Huw. And obviously the town centre leads us on to the broader visitor economy, really. I mean, I think holidays are going to be a little bit different for a while for people still, probably thinking of having more holidays in the UK, maybe shorter holidays and holidays from homes. So with staycations currently the vogue, how does Chesterfield become a more thriving visitor destination and hub?
Well, the latest stats that I've got are 2019. They're always a bit out of date, the visitor economy statistics. They're always 12, 18 months behind where they should be, really. But in 2019, there were 4 million visitors to the town and borough. Visitor spend was 203 million, so it was 10% up on the previous year, 2018. And 2,350 people work within the sector. Again, an uplift on the previous year. I think so we're going in the right direction, but the real challenge is how we convert those visitors to staying visitors, because only 3.8% or 153,000 of the 4 million actually stayed in the town and borough. So I think we've got to think much more creatively around how we create packages so that we get people to spend time in Chesterfield, but also maybe spending a day out at Chatsworth in the Peak District. But how we package up the great attractions that we've got within the town and borough to create a position where people want to come and spend 2 or 3 days here in serviced accommodation or even non-serviced accommodation. That's the key, because the day visitor does not spend a huge amount of money. Your staying visitor will spend money in the pubs, in the restaurants, in the retail economy. And that's critical. So we've got a big piece of work, I think, to do around the visitor economy. We're on with that. We're currently writing a new strategy, visitor economy strategy for Chesterfield. There's a piece of work we've recently commissioned. We'll want to be talking with Chesterfield champions about all of that as it starts to emerge. The other interesting facts and figures which I've come across in the last 12 months or so is that if you look at the Peak District, which is the second most visited national park in the world, 61% of the visitors come from the east. I've kind of always been of a view that the visitors would have come from Greater Manchester, but actually they come from the east. And I dare say a good percentage of that comes straight through Chesterfield. So we've got to make sure and find ways of creating opportunities for that big influx of visitors to the Peak District, not just to touch Chesterfield as they drive through it, but actually come and see Chesterfield for what it is, which is a real quality visitor destination in its own right. So that's I think, a really important thing. The other thing is the Collier's international studies that we've looked at, which says that there's bags more capacity that can be delivered through new hotels coming in to the town and borough. We've got obviously Casa and Peak Edge and Premier Inn and lots of other quality serviced accommodation, bed and breakfast and so on. Not decrying that, but there's plenty of gap in the market. And so down at Waterside, down at Basil Close, just off Holywell Cross, and out at Peak Resort, you know, there'll be plenty of opportunity for hoteliers, quality hoteliers to come in. And that's really important for the town and borough. But just to finish off on the visitor economy piece, I think what we need to do through Destination Chesterfield around the experience piece is to find a way of creating packages that encourages people to come here and have some quality time within the town and borough and stay here and spend money within the economy. and how we market that then, both to the UK market, but also overseas market, I think is going to be really important. I probably should have just said something about festivals and events, because they're not just town centre. You know, it is also about bringing people into the town to experience Chesterfield, some for the first time. So things like Pride at Stanford Park, really important. We had meetings last couple of weeks with the cricket club, Derbyshire County Cricket Club. Be great, all being well. We'll see Sir Alistair Cook here with Essex in the summer, and the T20 with Yorkshire and so on. We've got the Redbrick Foundation 10K, a new event for October, which I've entered. I'm sure you have as well, Dom. And then we've got all the stuff we do with Ashgate, which is just fabulous in terms of the Sparkle Walk and so on and so forth. So there's a great range of festivals and events, motor festivals, what I should have mentioned as well, that I think are important as part of the visitor economy strategy going forward.
Thanks, Huw. Yeah, a bit of training during lockdown's been good to keep fit as well. So yeah, we'll be running in October. Obviously, and you touched at this right at the very beginning. People are the heart of, you know, every place, and you know, as regeneration and economic growth returns, we need that. I think the words you used, that inclusive growth for people within the borough. So could you tell us a little bit more around what's been done to raise the level of workforce skills to ensure people are best placed to benefit from the growth which is taking place?
Well, of course, the town is blessed already with good schools, a great college, which is one of the top colleges nationally for positive destinations, employer learner satisfaction, and a university presence with the University of Derby, which is just, I think, won Social Mobility University of the Year, which is exactly the kind of university we want within the town and borough, with social mobility being such an important thing. So we've got a good, you know, grounding in terms of the quality of provision this year, alongside obviously other training and education providers. I just want to talk about one or two elements that we've worked up over the past 12 months, which I think are really important. The first is our local labour clauses that we add to planning consents, and I was really pleased with the data that was shared with me in the last few weeks on this. So when there are, you know, some of the larger developments happening within the town and borough, we add local labour clauses, which means that those construction partners have to look to the local supply chain in terms of subcontractors and suppliers of materials to their construction sites. And if you look at just the last 9 months, the value of that from the construction sites around Chesterfield town and borough was £21.4 million. So those are really important clauses that we're adding to planning consents, which are delivering for local supply chain businesses. We also encourage those construction partners to employ local, and there's been 251 local jobs on those construction sites established. And then finally, we also encourage them to take on apprentices, and 35 apprentices have been taken on in the past 9 months on those sites. So I think that's just a fabulous set of statistics around the local labour work that we're doing. The skills delivery work that we've done with the college, the university, and with your good selves at Destination Chesterfield, I think has been exemplary. The North Derbyshire Careers Hub is the most improved careers hub in England. And that's largely because of the My Future platform, which I think has been absolutely fabulous in terms of providing our children and young people that are leaving education with an online opportunity to see what's out there in terms of employment and in terms of education and training. So I think we should be commended, and we should pat ourselves on the back for that wonderful platform, online platform that was created through My Future. Obviously, it's very difficult. We can't take school children into manufacturing and engineering businesses. So MAID has taken manufacturing and engineering businesses to them through the videos that they've recorded. Again, to excite that interest in STEM subjects, which is really critical, I think, at the college and the university. There's also been some great D2N2 programs that have been running as well. So we've had the NEAT program, which is all about targeting 16 to 24-year-olds, not in education, employment and training, targeting them with skill support to get them into employment, education and training. And some 330 young people have done just that in the past 12 months. We've also had our upskilling program, which is skill support for the workforce, another D2N2 program. 391 workers currently employed within Chesterfield businesses have had upskilling support over the past 12 months. And then finally, which goes back to my point around deprivation, there's then the Building Better Opportunities funding, and some 400 residents have been supported with their skills and employability. We've addressed their underlying health conditions and financial concerns. So we get them on their feet and ready for work, and that's a really powerful program again that we've enabled. And then finally, with the East Midlands Chamber of Commerce, we've done the Kickstart program, excuse me, which is all about 16 to 24-year-olds that have been impacted by the pandemic, and working with local Chesterfield businesses. 38 of those businesses have now taken on 117 16 to 24-year-olds and provided them with work experience for 6 months, with a view ideally to them going into employment or onto apprenticeship programs thereafter. So those are just some of the examples of things that we've been doing with yourselves, Dom, at Destination Chesterfield, with the council, with education and training providers, about making sure that our workforce has the right skills, the right employability training to take advantage of the job opportunities that are created within the town and borough.
Yeah, and it's been obviously working a lot on the My Future platform and made. It's been really rewarding to see the feedback from the people who are using it as well. So and to hear those actual facts and figures about the people being helped is really good for Chesterfield. Finally, this morning we move on to the subject of sustainability. A matter that's important for all of us, really. So could you just tell us a little bit more about how Chesterfield Borough is working towards becoming carbon neutral by 2050?
It is a very important matter. I think it's been impacted, sadly, by the past 12 months. We've certainly not done as much as the council as we would have liked to have done so. We've written the Climate Change Action Plan, which has 2 elements. One is the council itself, which we want to be carbon neutral by 2030, and how we then enable the borough to be carbon neutral by 2050. I think we made a good start with the local plan. If you look at the local plan, which went through public examination, was signed off last year, the focus there is on regeneration and concentration. So it is about bringing those brownfield sites back into productive use, and sadly we have plenty of them around our town and borough, hectares of former industrial sites that need being brought back into productive use. And the other element is concentration. So ideally we want development to happen where people can walk and cycle to their workplace, and they can walk and cycle to their retail, leisure and cultural opportunities. So I think that's really important. We are writing now a supplementary planning document on cycling and walking, and therefore putting a huge amount of attention on that. It won't be enough. We know that, we've got to work really hard now with the Transport Authority. Cycle Campaign does a great job, and we're keen to work with them as well. And it would be great to get Chesterfield to be known as a place for cycling in terms of every aspect of the town and borough and what's enabled by it. So, I look forward very much to working on those sorts of areas. We have to set an example as a council, and we do that. Virtually all of our operational estate has energy efficiency measures inbuilt within it. Even at the town hall here, the lighting is powered by solar panels on the roof. Our innovation centres have geothermal technology with rods going into the ground and pulling heat up and so on. But we've got to do a huge amount more of that in terms of our operational estate, but also through our planning policies. when there are new buildings, whether they're for employment or for housing, that things are inbuilt into the design in terms of carbon and energy efficiency. So we'll be doing a huge amount more than that. And I have to say, you know, when I do talk with the construction, the house builders, the construction partners, they are doing just that in terms of the design of new homes, electric charging points at standard, and so on and so forth. We remain a large landlord, a quarter of the housing stock in Chesterfield. You know, we are a landlord for 9,000 families or so. And again, we've been investing multi-millions of pounds in affordable warmth measures over the years. And we've just announced publicly today a £23 million capital programme going forward for our housing estates. And many elements of that will be about doors and windows and loft insulation and roof replacements and so on. And external cladding, which is all about creating, affordable warmth for those householders and reducing the carbon footprint for them. We're also looking at our fleets, and I think we'll talk to many employers within the town about their fleets and moving them to electric. We're working very closely with Peak on hydrogen and potentially looking at a manufacturing facility within the town. And Borough, somewhere not too far from Markham Vale, so we can get, you know, more hydrogen buses and more hydrogen HGVs, and obviously what we want to do with Talgo at Borough Hill around potentially, you know, hydrogen rail engines and so on and so forth. So I could talk about this at great length. I think there's a huge amount of work to do. We're very ambitious at the council in terms of supporting that agenda, setting the right example. Looking forward to working with the champions, and we've got some great champions, right from market traders like Steph's Sustainable Stuff, right up to custom solar. We're putting solar panels on roofs of commercial buildings all around the UK. So we want to work with those champions and others to create the right environment here and to set an example for the rest of the country, that Chesterfield is a place that is sustainable going forward. And let's hope we can get those targets of 2030 and 2050, and ideally much before those deadlines, through the work that we'll do in partnership with our champions and with other stakeholders within the town and borough.
Thank you, Huw, for that update, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. As always at these events, there's so much going on. Please do help spread the word about the progress of what is happening in the town and the opportunities that Huw's mentioned today to get involved with consultations. Please do share your ideas and views and your expertise. It's a team effort to promote the town, and we all need to work together to do that. If you'd like to find out anything else about what you've heard this morning, please do get in touch with the team and we'll be happy to help. So a big thank you again to Huw, and goodbye, and we'll see you soon.
Lovely, thank you, Dom. It's been good to be with you again this morning, and let's hope we'll be back at the Winding Wheel Theatre this time next year. Thanks very much.
Thank you, and yeah, definitely, hopefully we'll be doing live events again soon. So yeah, thank you all for joining us this morning, and I look forward to seeing you all at an event soon.
Chesterfield's a town of great history and tradition.
It's a town with a strong sense of togetherness.
We know things have been difficult this year.
We know things have changed.
But this town is strong.
This town is independent.
This town is unique.
We've stuck together through it all.
And now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and this town will be there for you again.
We've got something for everyone.
We've got everything you need.
We've got that something special.
We've got your safety at the heart of everything we do.
We're just missing one thing for the perfect experience. You.